You have a place, maybe several places. You have lived there for years. All your things are there. You sleep there every night. But it does not feel like home. Nowhere has ever felt like home. You call this restlessness. It is deeper than that. You believe you have not found the right place yet, that somewhere out there exists the location, the house, the city, the country where you will finally feel like you belong. You think you just need to keep searching, keep trying new places, keep hoping that the next move will be the one where everything clicks and you finally feel at home. But you have lived in 10 places and none felt like home. You have tried different cities, different countries, different types of housing. You have decorated, organized, tried to make spaces feel like yours. And still, every place feels temporary, foreign, wrong. You feel like guest in your own space, like you are waiting for something, like you are not supposed to be there even though you live there. This is not about finding the right place. This is about psychological condition that makes feeling at home impossible regardless of where you are. Some people carry home inside them and can feel at home anywhere. You carry homelessness inside you and feel at home nowhere. The problem is not external. It is not that the right place does not exist. The problem is internal. Something in your psychology prevents you from experiencing anywhere as home. Understanding why some people never feel at home requires examining not the places they have tried, but the psychological patterns that make them incapable of settling, of belonging, of experiencing anywhere as safe and permanent and theirs. This is not wanderlust. This is chronic displacement that exists regardless of where you are physically located. They ask where you are from. You do not know how to answer. You have lived in many places. None of them feel like where you are from. You have no home base, no place you return to. You call this being well-traveled. It is being psychologically unmoored in ways that make belonging impossible. Here is the first reason. You were never safe anywhere as child, so your nervous system never learned to associate any location with safety, and without that association, nowhere can feel like home because home is fundamentally about feeling safe. Home is not just physical structure, it is feeling that you can let your guard down, that you are protected, that you belong and will not be expelled. If you never felt this safety anywhere, your system never learned to recognize any place as home. Maybe you moved constantly as child and never stayed anywhere long enough to develop roots. Maybe your household was chaotic or violent and the place you lived was associated with danger rather than safety. Maybe you were emotionally neglected and the physical structure existed, but the feeling of being home, of being wanted, of belonging never existed. Whatever the cause, your early environment taught you that places are not safe, that nowhere is permanent, that you should not get attached because you will have to leave or it will hurt you. This creates permanent psychological homelessness. Even when you are objectively safe, even when you have stable housing, even when you are not going to be forced to leave, your nervous system does not register the place as safe. You remain vigilant, remain ready to leave, remain unable to settle because settling requires feeling safe and your system was never trained to feel safe anywhere. You cannot relax fully in any space. You keep belongings easily packable. You avoid personalizing spaces too much. You maintain emotional distance from your living situation because some part of you is always preparing for it to end, always expecting that you will have to leave, always knowing that this is not really yours and will not last. You live like temporary guest even in place you own, even in place you have lived for years. This is not choice or preference. This is trauma response. Your nervous system learned early that places are not safe and nowhere is permanent, and this learning is so deep that no amount of objective safety can override it. You cannot feel at home because home requires feeling safe and you have never felt safe anywhere. You finally settle somewhere, start to feel comfortable, begin to think maybe this is home, then panic sets in. The urge to leave, the feeling of being trapped. You call this getting restless. It is attachment followed by immediate flight response because attachment means vulnerability. The second reason is that you learned attachment to places leads to loss, so you developed a pattern of disconnecting from places before you can become attached enough to be hurt when you have to leave. Every place you felt attached to, you lost. Every place you started to call home, you were forced to leave. Every time you settled, something disrupted it. You learned that attachment creates vulnerability to devastating loss. So you protect yourself by never fully attaching. You keep psychological distance from every place you live. You remain emotionally uninvested in your living situation. You maintain readiness to leave so that leaving will not hurt. You tell yourself this place is temporary, this is not really home, you are just here for now. This protects you from feeling loss when you leave, but it also prevents you from ever feeling at home while you are there. The protection mechanism is automatic now. The moment you start to feel settled, start to feel like maybe this could be home, your system activates alarm. Attachment is danger. Feeling at home means vulnerability to loss. The safety you are beginning to feel triggers the fear that you will lose this safety, and the fear makes you want to leave before you can be forced to leave, before you can be hurt by losing what you are starting to care about. This creates self-fulfilling pattern. You never feel at home because you leave before you can feel at home. You leave because feeling at home is beginning to happen, and feeling at home activates your fear of loss. You tell yourself you are restless, you are adventurous, you need change and novelty, but actually, you are running from attachment before attachment can create vulnerability to pain you cannot tolerate. You are not incapable of feeling at home. You are protecting yourself from feeling at home because home means something that can be taken away, means something you will lose, means setting yourself up for the devastating loss you have experienced before and cannot risk experiencing again. The homelessness is defense mechanism. It keeps you safe from attachment, but it also keeps you perpetually displaced, perpetually alone, perpetually unable to belong anywhere, because belonging requires attachment you have learned to avoid. You change locations, redecorate, reorganize, try to make it feel right. Nothing works. The discomfort is not about the space. You call this being particular. It is being uncomfortable in yourself and projecting that discomfort onto your surroundings. The third and most fundamental reason is that you do not feel at home in yourself, so no external place can feel like home, because home is ultimately internal state, not external location. If you are not comfortable in your own skin, not at peace with your own mind, not settled in your own existence, you will feel displaced regardless of where you are physically located, because the displacement is in you, not in the space. You change apartments hoping new space will feel different. It feels the same. You move to new city hoping different environment will help. The environment changes but the feeling does not. You try different countries, different climates, different types of housing. Nothing works because the problem is not the place. The problem is that you carry the discomfort with you. You are the common factor in every place that does not feel like home. Not feeling at home in yourself means being disconnected from your body, alienated from your emotions, uncertain about your identity, uncomfortable with your thoughts. It means existing in constant state of subtle wrongness where nothing feels quite right because you do not feel right. It means being unable to relax into simply being because being yourself feels uncomfortable or wrong or not enough. When you are at home in yourself, when you are comfortable with who you are, at peace with your internal experience, accepting of your existence, you can make almost anywhere feel like home because home is state of being rather than external circumstance. But when you are not at home in yourself, nowhere can feel like home because you bring the displacement with you everywhere you go. You think the problem is that you have not found right place. Actually, the problem is that you have not found right relationship with yourself. You are trying to solve internal problem through external solutions. You are trying to find home outside yourself when home can only be found inside yourself first. Until you address the internal displacement, the discomfort with your own existence, the disconnection from yourself, the fundamental unease with being you, no place will ever feel like home because you will be carrying the homelessness with you everywhere you go. This place is temporary, just until you figure things out, just until you find the real place. Just until life really starts. You have been saying this for 10 years. You call this being in transition. It is refusing to be present where you are because you are always waiting for somewhere else. The fourth reason is that you are psychologically living in the future, always waiting for real life to begin somewhere else, which means you never fully inhabit wherever you are now because now is just temporary phase before you get to the place where life really happens. You are perpetually in transition, perpetually preparing for the real thing, perpetually treating current location as holding pattern until you get to the place that counts. This place is just temporary. You will be here for a year or two and then move to the real place. You do not need to personalize it, do not need to invest in it, do not need to make it nice because you will not be here long enough for it to matter. You are saving your energy and resources and emotional investment for the place that will be your real home, the place where you will finally settle permanently. Except you have been saying this for a decade. Every place has been temporary. Every place has been the transition before the real place. You have never arrived at the real place because there is no real place. There is just series of places you refuse to be present in because you are always waiting for the next one. This pattern makes home impossible because home requires commitment to being where you are, requires treating current location as real rather than temporary, requires investing in present rather than saving yourself for imagined future. You cannot feel at home in place you are treating as temporary holding pattern until real life begins. The waiting also creates the displacement. By treating every place as not the real place yet, you ensure that no place becomes the real place. By refusing to invest because you are saving yourself for somewhere else, you guarantee that you never create the home you claim to be seeking. The homelessness is not because you have not found the right place, it is because you refuse to commit to any place, refuse to be present where you are, refuse to treat now as real because you are perpetually waiting for later. You are not in transition. You are avoiding arrival. The displacement serves you. It keeps you safe from commitment, from permanence, from having to admit that this is your life and this is where it is happening. You imagine home. It is perfect. Exactly right. Feels like it should feel. No place you find matches the vision. You call this having high standards. It is having idealized concept of home that reality can never match because the ideal is fantasy, not place. The fifth reason is that you have romanticized concept of home that is impossible for any real place to fulfill because your ideal of home is based on fantasy rather than on actual experience of what homes are like. You are not looking for real place, you are looking for feeling that you imagine home will provide, and no real place can provide that feeling because the feeling is psychological state you are projecting onto concept of home rather than something that comes from external location. In your imagination, home feels completely safe, perfectly comfortable, exactly right. It is place where you are entirely yourself, where everything makes sense, where you belong absolutely. It is place that feels like it was made for you, where you fit perfectly, where you can finally relax completely because you have found where you are supposed to be. But this is not description of place. It is description of psychological state that no physical location can create. You are imagining that the right place will solve your internal displacement, will make you feel comfortable in yourself, will provide the sense of belonging and rightness that you lack. You are expecting external location to provide internal peace, and this expectation is why you keep being disappointed. Every place you try fails to match the ideal. It is not quite right. Something is off. The feeling you imagined is not there. So you conclude this is not home and you keep searching for the place that will match your internal vision. But the vision is fantasy. It is projection of what you wish you felt rather than what any real place can make you feel. Real homes are imperfect. They have flaws. The feeling they provide is not the perfect peace and belonging you imagine. It is just sense of this is where I live and I am okay with that. The comfort is not transcendent, it is mundane. Home is not magical place that transforms your internal experience. It is place you have adapted to and accepted as where you are. But you cannot accept this because your idealized concept makes every real place seem insufficient. You are comparing reality to fantasy and reality is losing. You will never find home because home you are seeking does not exist in physical world. It exists only in imagination as compensation for internal state you have not achieved. Home means staying, settling, committing to place, being responsible for it, maintaining it. The idea fills you with dread. You call this preferring freedom. It is experiencing home as trap rather than safety because home means being accountable and present. The sixth reason is that you have come to associate home with constraint, obligation, and loss of freedom, rather than with safety and belonging, which makes wanting home and fearing home happen simultaneously in ways that create constant displacement. Home means you have to stay, means you are responsible for maintaining place, means you are committed to location rather than able to leave whenever you want. And this feels like trap. You value mobility. You value being able to leave. You value not being tied down to place or community or commitments. You think this is preferring freedom and adventure. But actually you are avoiding responsibility, avoiding commitment, avoiding the obligation to stay and maintain and be present that home requires. Home means you have chosen, and choosing means eliminating other options, means commitment that limits your freedom to flee. This is often rooted in having experienced home as trap in childhood. Home meant being controlled, being constrained, being forced to be somewhere you did not want to be, with people you did not want to be with, in conditions you could not escape. Home meant powerlessness. So adult you associates home with loss of autonomy, with being trapped, with having your freedom restricted. The result is that you want home, but you also fear it. You long for sense of belonging and stability and having place that is yours. But when you start to settle, when you start to make commitments that create home, panic sets in. You feel trapped. You feel like walls are closing in. You need to know you can leave, need to maintain escape route, need to keep your options open. So you never commit fully. You keep one foot out the door. You maintain emotional distance. You avoid the obligations and responsibilities that make place actually yours. And this prevents home from ever developing, because home requires commitment, requires staying, requires accepting that this is where you are and this is what you are responsible for. You frame this as valuing freedom. Actually, you are avoiding the adult responsibility of having home and being present in it. The displacement protects you from commitment you fear, but it also ensures you remain perpetually rootless, perpetually uncommitted, perpetually unable to create the stability you claim to want. You tell yourself you are traveler, wanderer, free spirit who cannot be contained. You have built identity around not belonging anywhere. You call this being adventurous. It is making homelessness your personality so you never have to face what you are avoiding. The seventh reason is that you have constructed entire identity around being person who does not belong anywhere, who is perpetual outsider, who cannot be tied to place, and this identity requires maintaining the displacement, because if you felt at home somewhere, you would lose the identity you have built. The homelessness is not problem you are trying to solve. It is core feature of how you see yourself. You are the person who has lived everywhere and belongs nowhere. The person who does not need what others need. The person who is above the suburban dream of settling down and having place. The person who is too complex, too sophisticated, too free to be limited to single location. You have made your displacement special, have turned your inability to feel at home into evidence of your uniqueness and depth. This identity protects you from having to acknowledge that you are not choosing displacement, you are trapped in it. It allows you to frame your homelessness as deliberate preference rather than recognizing it as trauma response or attachment failure or inability to commit. It lets you feel superior to people who feel at home somewhere because they are conventional and you are free. But the identity is prison. It requires you to maintain the displacement, to maintain the self-concept. If you settled, if you felt at home, if you committed to place, you would have to acknowledge that you are not actually the free spirit you claim to be, that the displacement was not preference but problem, that you have spent years avoiding something rather than choosing something. So you keep moving. You keep remaining displaced, not because you want to, but because the identity requires it. You have invested so much in being the person who does not belong that belonging would mean destroying the self you have constructed. The homelessness is no longer just about feeling or not feeling, it is about who you are, and changing it would mean becoming someone else. You are trapped by your own narrative. The story you tell about being perpetual wanderer has become the thing preventing you from ever finding home. You cannot settle without admitting the story was defense mechanism rather than authentic expression of who you are. You never feel at home, not because the right place does not exist, not because you have not found it yet. Not because you are too sophisticated or complex or free to be contained, because psychological patterns make feeling at home impossible regardless of where you are. You never feel at home because you were never safe anywhere and your nervous system never learned to recognize places as safe, because you learned attachment leads to loss and you protect yourself by never attaching, because you do not feel at home in yourself and no external place can compensate for internal displacement. Because you are always waiting for real life to begin somewhere else rather than being present where you are. Because you have idealized concept of home that no real place can match. Because you associate home with trap rather than safety. Because you have built identity around being person who does not belong and settling would destroy that identity. These are not permanent conditions, but they are deep patterns that will not change just by moving to new place. You have tried moving. It did not work because the problem is not the location. The problem is internal, the patterns that make you incapable of settling, of belonging, of experiencing anywhere as home. Real solution is not finding right place. It is addressing the psychological patterns that make every place feel wrong. This means processing the lack of safety that trained your system to never feel safe anywhere. Healing the attachment wounds that make you flee from connection to places. Coming home to yourself first. Being present where you are instead of waiting for somewhere else. Releasing the fantasy of perfect home and accepting real imperfect places. Recognizing that home requires commitment, not freedom from commitment. Letting go of identity built around displacement. You will never find home by searching for it externally. Home is not discovered. It is created through commitment to being where you are, through choosing to invest in place despite knowing it is not perfect, through building roots rather than maintaining ability to flee, through being present rather than waiting for better elsewhere. You do not feel at home anywhere. This will not change by moving. It will only change by staying long enough to let home happen. And staying requires facing everything the displacement protects you from